Okay, so imagine this for a second. You wake up one morning, go outside, and find your livestock attacked brutally.
Right, but it's weird. Their bodies look strangely okay, mostly intact, but they're completely drained of blood.
Yeah, exactly. No signs of a big struggle, not a messy scene at all. Just these maybe 2 or 3 really precise puncture marks.
And this isn't just a one-off. For over 2 decades now, this exact chilling signature has been popping up, haunting rural communities across the Americas.
It's the signature that's been blamed on, well, a pretty terrifying and elusive cryptid, a creature people talk about, but no one's proven exists.
The Chupacabra literally translates to goat sucker, and today that's what we're diving into. We're going deep into the legend, going to track its explosive origins and how it spread, well, everywhere.
We've got some interesting material to work with. There's a documentary, The Chupacabra, Bloodthirsty Legend or Misunderstood Predator, which explores it compellingly.
And, importantly, we're balancing that with some serious investigative work. Benjamin Radford's book, Tracking the Chupacabra, The Vampire Beast in Fact, Fiction and Folklore, is crucial here. He really dug into it.
So our mission for you today is to kind of unpack all these different explanations for this, well, modern monster. Is it an alien experiment, some kind of genetic anomaly, or is there a solid scientific debunking?
And we want to explore how a story like this can just take on a life of its own. So the big question, is the Chupacabra a real blood-sucking predator or maybe one of the biggest urban legends of our time?
Okay, let's get into it. This nightmare scenario, where did it actually start?
It really burst onto the global stage back in 1995. The origin point was Puerto Rico.
1995, okay.
Yeah. And for months, farmers there were just absolutely terrorized.
Yeah.
Mysterious attacks on their livestock, mostly goats, which is where the name comes from, but also, chickens, sheep, even some people reported pets.
And the condition of the animals, like we said, was key, right? That drained of blood thing, the lack of struggle, those small puncture wounds, usually on the neck or head.
Exactly. That surgical kind of precision and the apparent lack of blood, it just screamed something. Well, not normal, not your usual predator. It was deeply unsettling.
So unusual that it needed a name, I guess.
It did. And funny enough, the term Chupacabra goatsucker was actually coined by Silverio Perez, who is a comedian and a local personality in Puerto Rico.
A comedian? Wow.
Yeah, but it just instantly stuck. People needed something to call this threat.
Right. And then came the eyewitness accounts. What were people actually claiming to see?
Well, the early descriptions from Puerto Rico were pretty consistent and pretty monstrous. They talked about a bipedal creature, maybe 3 to 5 feet tall.
Bipedal. So walking on 2 legs.
Yeah, with tough, leathery, or maybe scaly skin. Big eyes, often described as red or black, and this really distinct feature, a row of sharp quills or spikes down its back.
Spikes. Like a reptile or something.
Sort of. Some accounts even threw in, alien-type features or bat-like wings. It was wild.
I can only imagine the panic. You're losing livestock, maybe your livelihood, and people are describing that.
Oh, absolutely. It caused widespread panic. People started arming themselves. It got so serious, the Puerto Rican government actually launched an investigation. They had to acknowledge something weird was happening.
So it starts as this intense, localized island mystery. But it didn't stay there, did it?
Not at all. It just exploded. It became this global cryptid sensation really fast. Reports of similar attacks, those same weird livestock mutilations, started surfacing all across Latin America, Mexico, Central America, South America.
And then it headed north.
Yep. Made its way into the U.S., especially the Southwest. Think Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, places like that.
But here's where it gets kind of confusing, right?
Yeah.
The description started to change.
Massively. This is really interesting. What people started describing, particularly the quote-unquote Texas Chupacabra, was totally different.
How so?
It was usually described as a hairless, canine-like creature, like a coyote or maybe a wild dog, but sick-looking, often suffering from what looked like severe mange.
Wait, so it went from a spiky, bipedal reptile thing to a mangy dog. That's a huge shift.
Huge! And it raises this massive question. Are we talking about 2 completely different types of Chupacabra? The original Puerto Rican one and this later dog-like version?
Or the first wave of scary stories just, trigger something. That kind of phantom monster thing where people started blaming any weird animal sighting on the Chupacabra.
That's exactly the debate. And it kind of marks a shift in how we look at this, moving from just the eyewitness stuff to, okay, what does science have to say?
Right. Because you've got these two very different monsters. How did scientists even start to tackle this? Did they find any, grounded explanations?
Well, for the most part, yes. Scientists and veterinarians, when they looked into the attacks, they largely pointed towards known predators.
Like
Coyotes, domestic dogs gone feral, even things like owls. Their hunting methods can sometimes leave surprisingly discreet puncture wounds.
Okay, but what about the blood draining? That's the really iconic part.
Yeah, the vampire aspect. Scientists explain that in a couple of ways. One, the predator might actually consume a lot of the blood, or there could be internal bleeding, and what little blood escapes might just soak into the ground, making it look like it was all drained.
So the whole vampiric draining thing might be more sensationalized.
Often, yes. Scientifically, it's not well supported in most cases. And then there's the hairless dog version, the Texas one.
What's the scientific take on that?
That one's pretty clear-cut, actually. Those animals, when carcasses were recovered and tested, were consistently identified as canines, coyotes, dogs, sometimes raccoons, suffering from a really severe case of sarcoptic mange.
Mange. The skin disease.
Exactly. It's caused by parasites, leads to major hair loss, thickened, wrinkly skin, and makes the animal look really emaciated and, frankly, quite monstrous, especially if you see it briefly or at night.
So a case of mistaken identity fueled by a pre-existing legend.
Very likely. And this is where Benjamin Radford's work becomes so important. He didn't just speculate, he investigated.
His book, Tracking the Chupacabra, right? What did he do?
It documents a 5-year investigation. He really committed. He traveled, went to Nicaragua, interviewed local experts like a guide named Fernando Casanova in the Indio Maize Biological Reserve. He looked at tracks, evidence on the ground.
Did he get to examine any of the alleged Chupacabra bodies?
He did. He was involved in a 2008 episode of the show Monster Quest where they analyzed some carcasses. One was the famous Cuero Chupacabra found in Texas.
And his conclusion?
His research consistently showed that pretty much all the claimed Chupacabra corpses were identifiable animals. Coyotes, dogs, raccoons, almost always with severe mange or similar skin issues.
Okay, so he tackles the physical monster. What about the blood draining claims? Did he address those specifically?
Yeah, he concluded that the whole idea of exsanguination, complete blood draining, was inaccurate. He pointed to things like internal hemorrhaging or blood pooling after death, which can make it seem like blood is missing.
And the puncture wounds.
He noted they were consistent with canine teeth. Predators, like dogs, often go for the neck instinctively. A taxidermist named Jerry Ayer confirmed this is common predator behavior.
So Radford basically provides explanations for all the mysterious details.
Pretty much. He argues that the legend's huge spread is down to a combination of things. Mass media hype, especially the internet and TV shows amplifying it, eyewitness misidentification, maybe a lack of understanding of forensic science, social contagion, and even mass hysteria.
Like a perfect storm for creating a modern myth.
Exactly. He basically stated that every supposedly mysterious detail of the blood-sucking monster thing and its victims was explained. His work got recognized too. Finalist for book awards, praised for being thorough.
Okay, so if Radford and other scientists have provided these pretty solid explanations, why does the legend persist so strongly? Why do people still believe?
That's the fascinating part, isn't it? Because for a lot of believers, the scientific explanations just don't cut it. They feel insufficient.
What do they point to instead?
They often highlight the sheer number of sightings and the consistency, especially of those early Puerto Rican reports of the spiky bipedal creature. They also mention attacks that sometimes don't seem to fit any known predator's typical behavior.
So there's still that element of the unknown, the unexplained for them.
Absolutely. And I think the Chupacabra taps into something deeper psychologically. It plays on ancient fears, fear of the dark, of the unknown predator lurking just outside our view. There's also that connection to older vampire folklore, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And maybe in a world where wildlife and human areas clash more, the idea of some new hidden threat feels more plausible.
I think so. And Radford, in his book, explores another layer, too, how the legend might reflect certain sociopolitical anxieties.
How so? Like the monster represents something else.
Yeah. Particularly in some areas, there's this idea that the Chupacabra could be linked to, say, post-colonial anxieties or resentment towards outside forces, like the U.S. government. Some theories literally suggest it's a secret U.S. experiment gone wrong.
Wow. Okay, so it gets woven into conspiracy theories, too.
Definitely. And Radford also notes an interesting correlation observed by some reviewers. The rise of evangelical churches in parts of Latin America and the U.S. Southwest seem to coincide with spikes in Chupacabra sightings, with some people linking the creature to satanic or occult forces.
So it becomes a symbol for all sorts of fears and beliefs.
Exactly. And while some critics felt Radford might have been a bit dismissive of believers' perspectives, his work is still seen as really valuable for showing why the legend is so sticky. How media, especially movies, helped shape it. It's really become this modern folklore phenomenon where, for some, no amount of scientific evidence is going to change their mind.
It really shows the power of a story.
It does.
So wrapping this up, where does that leave us? The Chupacabra is still out there, at least in stories. It's clearly one of the most gripping, maybe terrifying cryptids of our time.
Yeah, it's this fascinating mix, isn't it? Born out of real fear and panic, fueled by eyewitness accounts, constantly debated by science on one side and folklore on the other.
Is it some undiscovered blood-draining predator still hiding out there?
Or is it more a product of us misunderstanding the wildlife around us, mixed with our own shared anxieties?
Or maybe it's just a powerful urban legend that's taken on a life of its own, changing shape, adapting, reflecting whatever we're afraid of at the time.
It could be any or all of those things, really.
Whatever the final answer is, though, this whole deep dive is a potent reminder, isn't it? Even now, with all our technology, the wild still feels like it holds secrets.
And our own human imagination, it clearly still has this incredible power to conjure up monsters that kind of haunt all of us collectively.
So after hearing all this, what really stands out to you about the whole Chupacabra phenomenon? Something to really think about.